I always think about this when, you hear people from the peanut gallery, lack of a better term, they're talking about, oh, these guys, this, these guys, that. I find it, and I'm curious to see that you're in the locker room. There, it probably doesn't take much motivation for these guys to continue to give their best effort. Obviously, football, all the coach talk, game of inches, one play, and all that. But with
Mhm.
not only how much money these guys are making compared to what the ultimate goal is to go to the NFL, I don't see motivation being a factor or a talking point for that. Is that something you're in step with, if that makes sense?
Yeah, Patrick, I would agree with you 100%. And that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about coaching in this league compared to college and those type of things. In college, when you get in, you're having a season where you're struggling, things like that. It's easy for kids to let down. But, we went through a 3-game losing streak last year and then finished up, and won our last 3. But you didn't see that from these players because there's no entitlement with these guys. They're all hungry. They're all want to succeed. They all want to either try to get moved up to the NFL or they want to keep playing here and making money playing here. So that's all the motivation these guys really need. It comes from wanting to take care of their families and themselves and keep playing football. So that's really all the motivation they need. And that's what I've really enjoyed about it because that has never been a factor thus far that I've seen.
Coach, two guys that you had at Kent State, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously Joshua Cribbs and Julian Edelman. Is that something that we could see kind of a curveball thrown into some, going back to the Kent State days, maybe to spice it up a little bit?
What you talking about? Some offensive things from that stage, or
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't think
yeah,
anyone the quarterbacks has the same skill set as any of those guys, but I mean, at this point, and I don't want to come off as rude, 1-5, like let's just get a little bit creative with some stuff from reel back into the playbook type stuff, if that makes sense.
yeah, and we've actually already done some of that, Patrick. Trying to implement some of those things into Coach DeFlippo's system here. So some of those zone reads that we ran last week, that's where those came from, and a
Okay.
couple of our passing game things that were really good for us with a mobile quarterback like Cribbs and Edelman. We've been implementing here. So yeah, there may be some more of that come about. But it's got to be something that fits into John's system.
Yeah. With obviously, and I hate bringing this up because I know Coach Flip, that whole staff, y'all's resume speak for yourself. But at any point, and I know you kind of alluded to it, you get the week 10, the season is not going the way you guys thought it was. Is there any point you see maybe a couple other guys who haven't gotten as much, um, obviously game film, but substantial game film, kind of like, hey, go out there, play your tape type thing? Have those discussions kind of happened yet?
Yeah, I think you're always looking for guys. You're looking for signs in practice where you see a guy that maybe is making some plays. Like D. Anderson is an example. D had a touchdown catch there Saturday, and we've been seeing him in practice kind of elevate his play. And so he was active and on the trip and, made a play for us. So hopefully we see him a little bit more again this week. And I think there's several guys on both sides of the ball that are kind of in that vein where we'd like to see them do a few more things to see if, that they are a guy that maybe is the future for us here.
Coach, you do talk about the future a little bit. Are you getting pretty good positive signs that 2025 is looking good for not only the, Coach Flip staff, yourself, but also the league as a entirety?
Yeah, Patrick, as far as I know now, it is in this deal. You're kind of in your own little bubble here because we work some pretty long hours. So I really don't get much from, the media and reading about the UFL and those type of things because we're just so drained. We don't walk out here till about 11 o'clock every night. So I haven't seen much of that other than I know the TV ratings have been really good and everybody's pretty excited about those things. And I think for a first year of a merger, from what I read and what I hear, seems like things are moving in a positive direction. I hope it continues for sure because this league really brings a lot of great things, not only to players but coaches, and I think a fan base can be developed in a lot of these places, and I think it's just good for football to have it year round.
I got time for
Coach,
one or two more here.
yeah. I mean, I got to follow up. I don't know if this is in Coach Martin's wheelhouse, but I'll throw a dart at the dartboard if that's okay.
Okay.
Coach, we saw Coach Johnson's staff do this. Have you guys gotten any direction from the league about the free agents, essentially, the rookie free agents? Obviously, a lot of these guys are going into mini camp and whatnot, want to take advantage of that opportunity. But has the league come down and given any like on paper black and white feedback as far as with the 2024 class of the NFL, who right now they're probably going through their own, personal journey, figuring out, do I want to go to mini camp? Do I want to go to UFL or Reno, whatever their course of action may be?
Right. Yeah, that's probably a better question for Dennis Polian, our GM, and for Coach Flip, because I'm really not, attuned to those things like they are. But I'd defer that to them for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Coach. I mean, Jared, thank you for doing this. Third year playing pro ball, third different league. Have you seen your game grow, and what are some of the positives and negatives going from the 2022 USFL to Seattle last year to now in the UFL with the Showboats?
Yeah, to the first part of your question, it's been a lot of growth in my game, honestly. Not many people know this, but I didn't really start playing organized football until I was a freshman in high school, and it was by like parental guidance, honestly. I tell this story all the time, but my dad said, "Hey, you're going to play two sports when you get to high school," and it was kind of a shock for me because I was a basketball player my whole life, and picking a second sport was like a foreign language. And I think throughout my time, just in high school, when I got to Northwestern, like you're learning something new that wasn't always functional or kind of like ingrained in your being. And so to be able to go from college, and then I played arena in 21 in the IFL with the Math Pirates, to get back outdoors, not only just to prove with the USFL in 22 to scouts, coaches, whoever it may be, that I can play at a high level, but it was like proving it to myself. One, because COVID happens, you don't get the initial entry into the NFL like you initially anticipated, and there are so many hurdles of adversity. And so it's not just physicality or physical gifts that you see transformation in your game. It's really mentally too, because there are some hurdles that you have to clear there. So I think each year it's something new. And, what I've learned just being in sports, but also what I've seen from other sports that I watch pretty faithfully, it's like each year is something new. So you can't take the previous year's success and failure and think that if you do the same thing, it's going to be better the next year, because there are going to be new hurdles to clear. So I think each year I've tried to get better in one category or two, so that by the end of the season, and when I reflect back over however many years it's been that I've been playing, I can say, hey, I got better in this area.
Jared, you talk about your time within the IFL. Obviously, the more traditional game is what everyone strives for, but with the success of so many IFL players, how great is it for you, especially with Massachusetts, where they've had so many good players over the last couple of years, go into these leagues? How great is it to continue that legacy in the IFL, and to continue, especially with the AFL, kind of the nonsense going on with that the IFL essentially has all their ducks in a row?
I think there's actually a lot of similarities between spring football and the IFL, because there are so many different markets in the IFL, and everyone's number one knock is like, hey, you don't get paid that much. But what you have to understand, and this is where the similarities come into play, like when you're starting something new off of the ground, fresh off the ground, like there are some things that you have to sacrifice for the greater good, which is ultimately to play football. So it may not be the best setup in the IFL, but at least you're playing football. And that's what it was for me. Coming out of Northwestern, definitely had high expectations to go somewhere as an undrafted free agent. That didn't happen. COVID took that away, with so many opportunities and spots on teams being eliminated. And so to go in the IFL, it was humbling for myself, because you go from playing in Big Ten arenas to playing in arenas that probably aren't even a tenth of what you're used to, playing big time Big Ten football. So it was humbling in that standpoint, because it's like, hey, I'm here to play football. I'm here to get film and move on to the next level. But when I look back at it, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go make that decision to play in the IFL. And I think there's such a knock on the IFL because it's arena, it's indoor, and the list goes on. But I can't speak negatively about arena or the IFL because I know for me personally, if I didn't make that decision, like there would be no film because my current O-line coach now, the first thing he asked me when he coached me before the USFL season in 22 is if I had any recent film. And if I had been that guy that didn't have film, who knows what would have happened from that conversation. I'd like to think that he still would have took a chance on me, but I think that was kind of like the final thing that got me over the hump because at least he was able to see me on the field in some capacity within the last 6 months to a year. So I tell people all the time that are fighting for these spring league spots and just trying to play professionally, like sometimes you have to go play in the IFL to at least remain relevant with what you have put on tape.
Well, as you can see, I'm repping the IFL right now with the Vegas Nighthawks. So
absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, Mike's doing some good stuff over there. Thank you, Jared. Coach, obviously an unfortunate injury to a young man who's been dealing with injuries all year, Jeff McCall. What's the plan moving forward? Obviously wasn't as crazy involved as he was over the last couple of years, but anytime you got a guy who's been playing pro football with the same team for the last 3 years, a little bit of a issue in the personnel department as far as that.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jeff, he was injured last week and won't be with us for the foreseeable future. And he was, had just started to get some playing time in special teams and on defense, and he's been a good player for us over the last couple of years as well. So I'm really sad and disappointed that he won't be with us. But as they say in football, it's next man up, and we've got to rally the troops. And we have